This is a Hawgs Sports Network podcast. You're listening to the Hawgs Illustrated Sports Club podcast. Here's your host, Chip Souza of the Hawgs Sports Network.
This is Chip Souza from today's Hawgs Illustrated Sports Club luncheon. Had a great guest speaker today, former Arkansas Razorback and Fayetteville Bulldog Ronnie Brewer was the guest speaker today. Ronnie sat down with our Matt Jones for a question and answer session. Here is Ronnie Brewer.
Usually I worry about if you're going to be able to see who's sitting here. I don't worry about that with Ronnie.
Well, usually, with Coach Muscombe's, you have a problem with his feet not touching, but I don't have that problem right here. Absolutely.
I would ask you about that because I wish I would have asked them to pull this picture up. It was in Tulsa. You know exactly what I'm going to ask about, don't you?
I thought I was going to get fired that day.
He gets ejected at OU. You guys lose. You don't play well that day. Yeah. And you look like a bouncer trying to keep him off the floor. Tell me about that.
So it's kind of my job, Coach Smart's job. You know, obviously you're in the heat of the moment, heat of the battle. Calls go your way, calls go against you. You know, when your team's not playing up to par, there's a lot of emotions involved. And for whatever reason, one of the referees made it personal against us. I don't know why. I don't know but they were jawing with each other instead of like him reffing and him coaching. They were like arguing back and forward. He ended up getting a technical, and he looked like he was going to run on the court. Well, I know how Hunter Yurchek feels about that and how he wants the University of Arkansas represented, always in a good light. I've been in there when, he's coming in there and says, "Hey, Coach Musk, can you keep your shirt on this time? Can you not jump on the table?" But I saw him like he was going to run out there, and my natural instinct was to grab him, and I kind of grabbed him kind of hard, and I kind of grabbed him under his arms, and so he kind of jumped a little bit. When he jumped, it was in my arm. So I had him up. I had him picked up off the air, and it was on every news station. It was on Sports Center. It was and so the next day in the office, it was posted on every door to be funny. So when I came in the office, I saw the pictures, and I was like, "Oh crap," because I didn't know we hadn't met yet. I didn't know if he was mad at me or what. So I'm like, okay, how am I gonna explain this to my boss that I picked him up like a baby and carried him out for the betterment of him? But he wasn't mad at all. He was more like, hey, we got to get back to the drawing board, focus on the next game. Let's clean up what we did bad, focus on the good, the bad, the ugly, and try to bounce back and get this thing rolling. So.
That was a team that went to the Elite Eight.
Absolutely.
And you guys were in a bad stretch. You lost to OU. I think you came back the next week. You lost to North Little Rock, to Hofstra, a team you would have beaten 99 times out of 100 probably. Yeah. How do you go through, and you mentioned the football team, how do you go through these rough stretches? How do you approach them when you know your team is better than maybe what they're showing?
Well, you got to circle the wagons, and it's all about the people that's in that room. Only the people in that room know the blood, sweat, and tears that you have went on. What people don't know, kind of the college dynamic for our basketball season. We ask our kids to get to campus in May. Hey, you need to be. I know you're going to graduate on May 14th. We need you here at May 18th, ready to enroll in summer school. So we get rolling May, June, July, August, September, October. Then it's time to start playing, and so it's a long stretch ahead, a long grind, and as Muss always says, we really don't know what our team is until February, March. And if you looked at our teams in the past, it's been up and down, but you really know who we are comes February, March, because that's when we're playing our best basketball. That's who we know. We truly know our identity. Guys are getting to their rhythm. Why? I don't know. We've looked up the analytics about it and tried to figure it out. But, we just circled the wagons and said, hey, man, how do y'all want y'all's legacy to follow you guys after you finish playing? It's up to you guys to turn the corner. We can come in and come up with the best game plan because I feel like we have a really, really experienced staff with a lot of NBA experiences with schemes and different mismatches and how to exploit the matchups that we want. So it's really up to our guys to execute our game plan day in, day out. And our guys really bought in, and they were like, and I told our guys this year, I was like, hey, man, go to YouTube, and when our team is really locked in and bought in is when we throw the ball in, the guy who's guarding the point guard, he's going to put his hand up to declare the basketball. If he looks behind him, he's going to see a whole army behind him. He's going to have 2 guys on the elbows, 2 guys on the box with their hands up. And that means that, hey, man, we got your back, and we're there to help you. And those Elite 8 teams, they did that every possession come March, and that's why we made a run, and we were all on the same page, and it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Tell me about the work ethic it takes to work for Eric Musselman, because I figure there's not a lot of golfing, there's not a lot of fishing. It is every day, nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, I'm not a big golfer anyway. I like to watch golf. I can't golf, so that didn't bother me at all. And I've never shied away from hard work. I've never been the best athlete. I've never had the prettiest shot, and so I had to work extremely hard to be successful in the game of basketball. And so, my mentorship with our players, that's what you got to do to try to make it to the NBA. And so, working for Coach Must, to me, it's not like a super crazy grind. It's just work. And if you're accustomed to work, it's something that you wake up to and you enjoy doing every day. And coaches at Media Day, we have today off. We have a player-led practice at 2:30 that everybody's going to be there at 2 o'clock. Everybody's going to get their work in prior to the volunteer 2:30. Like, I'm not going to be there. Like, I'm leaving here and I'm going to run errands. And I know when I go in my office and I look down there, I know it's going to run smoothly, and I know they're going to go as hard as they possibly can, because that's the culture that we build. And when you can see how hard we're working as a staff every day to help them, then it's the expectation, the culture that they live in.
Probably no coincidence that a lot of you have NBA backgrounds yourself, Keith Smart, go on and on down the list. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. We just don't use it as a graphic, as we have the most NBA experience by any team in college basketball. That's why a lot of our, recruits and our current roster wants to come here, because they know, hey, I can look at, J.D. Note from when he was at Jacksonville to, his first year here, his second, and then when he left as a third-team All-American, I can see the development. I can see, guys that have been here that improved over a period of time. I can see guys like Trevor Brazile, who was at Missouri. And it's not to be funny that we try to do, but like we'll watch film and we'll have on film a player that's on our roster that we played against and how they played at their last school and how they play now. So Trevin was a good player at Missouri, but he didn't do the things that we thought that he was going to do to get to the NBA. And so we went in the portal. We were like, hey, we know that our staff can help you develop, and like this is how. And because we dissect and analyze stuff better than anybody in the country. And so that's just from our NBA experience. And now you see Trevin, a guy that's super athletic. His athletic ability hadn't left from Missouri, but now he's a guy who can now catch and shoot threes, put the ball on the floor, and do a lot of array of things on the offensive, defensive end through our player development.
NBA is so much about positionless basketball, and it seems like that's what you're targeting.
Absolutely. This game of basketball is always evolving. If you watch the NBA, and to me that's like the doctorate master, program, and what that college basketball is trying to imitate. It might not look the same because the players are bigger, stronger, faster, but it might look like the game's slowed down, or it doesn't look like they're playing defense. It's just the guys are so more skilled at positions that they hadn't been in the past. I always use the example of, I grew up playing like with Dwight Howard and like Tyson Chandler and like Yao Ming and, Shaquille O'Neal and these huge, massive centers that were there back to the basket. If you foul them, they're probably not going to make a free throw, and you can use that to your advantage to kind of scout or your game plan on how to win. Mm-hmm. Like for us, it's like, you get a rebound. We always use the example of Jalen Williams. He's 6'10", 245, 250-ish. I would prefer him, I would always say this to challenge. It was like, well, you don't have to dribble if you're scared to dribble, but I know the work that we do every day. We work on ball handling. We work on your back to your basket, mid-range, touch shots, three-point shots to be a basketball player. Because, if you get the rebound, if you're looking for a point guard, the pace of play is going to be slowed. So, but if you get the rebound and you push it and we all run, in the game of basketball, transition basketball, if you're a bad transition team, then you're not going to get back and get layups or open threes all game. And so that's what we try to do and get a mismatch on every aspect of the game through our positions. Basketball, those are the type of guys that we recruit that, hey, I can play 1 through 5, or I can guard 1 through 4. And for fans that are questioning, we're shooting the ball way better than we have in the past. That's been one of the things that we haven't done so well. So we went back to the drawing board and got a lot of shooting. So
you mentioned how much preparation you guys put in. You talk to analysts who come out and watch your practices, whether it's a Jay Billis or a Jimmy Dykes, and they talk about, there are poster boards everywhere, and it's different elements of the scouting report that you're wanting to hammer home that day.
Yep.
Tell us about that, and tell us maybe how that compares to an NBA preparation.
Well, I just use the example. We're playing Tyler, Texas Friday. They're a Division II team. Yesterday, we put on every team that lost versus a Division II team last year. One of the teams was Louisville, who had L. Ellis. So we put, not to be funny, we put L. Ellis on the board by saying, hey, this is what you can't do, and you can't play like this team because you can ultimately get beat. But every day, we have analytics, we have prep. We're going to know Tyler, Texas better than they know themselves. We know their players, their rotation, their shooting percentages, their strengths going right or left, or if they post up, or if we need to trap the post, or whatever the situation is. We're going to have a game plan going in. And obviously, with any sport, if you get punched in the mouth and, that's when the real game starts. It's like, okay, how do you face adversity and how do you adapt and make adjustments? But, we've all been there and done that, and no disrespect to any college people, but we had to prep or play against like Kobe Bryant or LeBron James and Kevin Durant. We're not playing against any of those guys, and so it's easier to prep against college than it is to prep in pros, and so I think that's why we have such an advantage across the board.
When you played, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, you knew a college basketball team's players when you went into a season, because they had been there for 2 years or 3 years. I mean, you played against guys at Kentucky who it felt like they were there for 7 years.
Yeah.
Now you're learning new rosters every single season. Just tell me about how the portal has changed everything from a basketball perspective since you played, because it seems like it's a totally different game.
Well, when I played, and other people that's in the room have been college athletes, the NCAA was a lot tougher as far as like transfer rules. That's why you saw so many high-level junior colleges, and you saw guys that were there for 4 or 5, and then they got a year for red shirt year for injury, maybe 6 years. But Coach Muss has been doing this portal thing since he was at Nevada, and when he came here, he kind of butted heads a little bit, because I was like, dude, if you want to be a coach that guys want to come play for, you got to get young kids, because that's who the NBA scouts are looking for because of their potential. And then you have Muss on the other hand, is like, well, if you look at these teams that are older, they're winning in the NCAA tournament, I'm going to win. And I was like, okay, well, we need to mixture of both. But I'm never worried going into after March the transfer portal, because you've got to go with somebody like, if someone's wrong with your heart, you want a heart surgeon to work on you. If something's wrong with your brain, you want a brain surgeon, knee, foot, whatever you want a special set. There's not a better person in college basketball that's more experienced with managing a roster than a guy that had to manage a roster like full time at a higher level. He managed NBA teams, salaries, and positions. He did that in the G League. He did that overseas when he coached international. A lot of coaches did, and that's why you see a lot of coaches that are like not accustomed to it, who are maybe older in age, is like, man, I'm not trying to deal with the transfer portal, and I'm not trying to deal with NIL, because it's changing the dynamics of college basketball.
I've heard Eric talk about the G League. He said that a lot of times he wouldn't know his roster till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Having a new roster in August is really nothing compared to that.
Yeah, because what I don't think people understand like kind of how like the developmental league works. It's not called the G League, but it used to be the developmental league. You might have your roster set, you might have practice, and then a team might say, hey, we're sending 2 or 3 guys down. They need to play 48 minutes. They need to get all the shots, and I don't care what your game plan is. We're trying to see our young guys develop so we can maybe use them 2 or 3 years down the line. So then he has to go back and change his whole game plan. So getting a roster or turning a roster over in the summer and then having to plan how you're going to prep and play them is very minor to having to go on the fly and, or you have a team or a guy on your team who's your go-to player that, hey, man, I'm going to run this play to him because I have a mismatch, and then right before the game he gets called up, so now you don't have him. Mm-hmm. And so now you have to come up with a completely different game plan on the fly in a short period of time. And so that's what he's been doing for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. That's what he did at the NBA, and that's why we have a lot of success in the transfer portal.
There's an interesting dynamic on staff right now. You're one of 3 new coaches.
Correct.
You guys have been in the program, but yourself and Todd Lee and Michael Musselman. But Todd Lee has got his 2 sons working on staff.
Yeah.
Michael is Eric's son. Matthew Musselman has also come in as a manager, GA.
Yeah.
So you've got these familial ties on staff. Tell me about working in a dynamic like that, and in particular, Eric and his boys. What is that like?
Well, it's been kind of cool because I think I have a 15-year-old daughter, and so she comes to work with me, and she plays volleyball. So like she'll go practice on the basketball court when we're not practicing, and that's what she wants to do every day. It's not like I'm like, hey, come up here, come to work with me, come practice, because my dad didn't make me do that. So I was like, I'm not going to make my daughter do that. And so I remember when I first got hired, Musk being like, like, why do you do that? And I was like, to build the relationship with my daughter, her being able to see what I do every day, but then able to interact with her. And, Musk basically said like, man, my dad was so busy with basketball, like we didn't really have that. I tried, and we tried to work around it. But to now see that, Michael's there, and then they got Matt, and then Ty Lee got hired, and then now both his sons are now one's a GA, one's a manager. Seeing them like not just in a basketball coach mode, to be also like a father figure mode is awesome. To I didn't ever like when I was here in Arkansas, we were trying to rebuild the program back. So I didn't the one time I went to the NCAA tournament, we lost to Bucknell, so I didn't experience going to Elite Eight or twice or a Sweet 16 as a player. And as coach knows back there, like it's something that you can't duplicate ever, the feeling of the success you have in March Madness. But to see those guys now have their kids on staff, not only like them experiencing it like as fans in the stands, but now they're on staff and being able to experience that it truly means something to have success being an Arkansas Razorback.
We've only got a few minutes left, but I want to run through the new players.
Okay.
Just give me a few words on each of these players. Let's start with L. Ellis, the point guard from Louisville.
Feels like he has something to prove. He played on a really bad team last year, and he averaged a lot of points. People are forgetting that he averaged like 18 points a game. That's a lot of points. Like, I felt like I scored the ball a lot, like a whole lot. Mm-hmm. That's what I averaged. Like, it's really hard to do. So he feels like this is the year he has to prove that he's a winner. Like, he has to be selfless, and he has to put the team first, and he's all in to allowing our team to win.
Caleb Battle from Temple.
Same exact situation. Temple was, quite frank, trash, and he scored a lot of points on a trash team, and he has to prove to the world that he's just not a good player on a trash team, and he's all in on trying to win games.
You got a big man from Memphis named Chandler Lawson who seems to be getting a lot of praise.
Man, he's a guy that he's kind of a journeyman. He started at Oregon, then he went to Memphis. Now he's here. He's at his 3rd school. So for him, it's very simple. He wants to be a glue guy and put the team first. He's all team, and whatever the team needs, he's willing to do that, and that's why we love him so much.
Tremont Mark coming in from a good program at Houston.
He's a little different. So as we pull people on the film about their previous school, like T. Mark's team, like they're the #1 seed. They won 30 games almost every year that he's been there. Kelvin Sampson at Houston is a hard-nosed coach that demands toughness, and that's exactly what he is. He's a hard-nosed player and very tough.
Jeremiah Davenport from Cincy.
Great kid, man. I think, unfortunately, like just kind of how our society is, he got arrested the other day. Mm-hmm. He really didn't get arrested, but he had a speeding ticket that he didn't take care of. And one of our things is you have to be responsible. As a young adult, you have to be responsible. He didn't take care of his ticket, and he had to do community service. Well, when you do community service, you have to get booked, and it's a lesson he learned. Unfortunately for him, that lesson meant that he's going to do a lot of running. And so, but he learned. I think he learned from that, and I think that he's checking his emails and stuff a lot better now. And but he's a great kid, great shooter, and I think he can really help us from Cincinnati.
You added a late player. Is it Denijay Harris?
Denijay Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, Denijay Harris is also a guy he literally came to us like, he was going to go to another school, and he said, "Coach, I love playing basketball, but I'm not a loser. And I've never won in college basketball, and I just want to win. And if I play, 1 minute or 40, I just want to experience winning. And to have a guy like that, man, we're so grateful because he comes in and brings his lunch pail every day."
And then finally, 2 big-time freshmen, Bay Fall and Layden Blocker.
Yeah. Bay Fall's great. He's hadn't been in the United States a long time, so every day is a learning experience, but he's a great kid with a huge heart, plays extremely hard. He came on campus at 6'11", 174 pounds, so he was really skinny. Mm-hmm. I think they listed him at 180, but I was like, hey, I'm going to push you to the limit, and I think he was up to 205 or 208. He's been grinding his butt off. We got to work on his hands because at his size, he was always I'm going to set a pick and you lob it to the rim. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, you can't always catch a lob. So we're working on his hands, but he's a great kid, plays really hard. And Layden Blocker, coach has been giving him praise each and every day. He pushes everybody. I already think that we're going to be one of the better defensive teams in the country. LLS competes defensively. Blocker competes defensively. He's super athletic for an incoming freshman at his size. His shot's improving. He's leading our team. He's more of a shy guy, him and Bay. And so with Muss, you can't be shy and play basketball. Like he's gonna get that out of you the first day somehow, and if that means calling you out. So getting those guys to talk and communicate. And for them to mature as young men, we're talking about basketball, but it's bigger than basketball. Like making sure those guys are going to study hall, making sure they're going to every class, making sure they're meeting with the nutrition so they can get vitamins and stuff like that. Like they're checking all those boxes, and they're going to be great guys for our program.
Ronnie, I could sit here and talk basketball with you all day. It's just been a lot of fun. We appreciate you coming and hope you come back in the future.
Thank you for having me.
All right, welcome. Or thank you, Ronnie. All right.
We honored our prep rally athlete of the week. That was Fayetteville linebacker Rhett Tyndall. He had a fumble return for a touchdown in Fayetteville's big 42-21 win against Bentonville. Here is Rhett Tyndall.
Rhett, big game for you guys. Friday night. I'm guessing y'all had that game kind of circled on the calendar for a while.
Yes, sir. It was a big game last year, lost in overtime, so we were all looking forward to it this year. We're really prepared this year going into it.
Walk me through the first second, whatever that play of the game was real early. Guess Noah got in there, knocked the ball loose. What did you think when you saw the ball come out like that?
When I first saw the ball come out, I didn't know if it was fumble or incomplete, so I ran over, just tried to get it, picked it up. I didn't hear a whistle, and I just took off.
What do you think? Looking back, seeing if anyone was going to catch it?
Yes, sir. I just picked it up, and I just didn't hear the whistle, and I just started running.
You had a touchdown earlier in the season that got negated by a penalty. So did you look around, see if there's any flags on the ground when you got the end zone?
Yes, sir. I was definitely looking. You can see I turned around immediately looking, and everybody was cheering, so I didn't think there was.
You're like, oh, finally.
Yeah, finally. Yes,
finally
sir.
got one. 42-21, I mean, you know, that was a pretty big margin of victory. You know, what do you guys feel like now after the game ended? You're 7-0. What you know, you got to like where you're at.
Yeah, we're really happy with where we're at. We got 3 more regular season games, conference games, and so we're going to focus on them, get through those 3, and then on the playoffs. So we're real happy.
Good deal. That is Rhett Tyndall, the Prep Rally Player of the Week. Congratulations,
Sir, thank
and
you.
good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Our Prep Rally Program of the Week this week was the Ozark Catholic Academy Boys Cross Country Team. They are the 2-time defending Class A state champions. Their coach met with me today before the meeting, and here is the Ozark Catholic Academy cross country coach, Alicia Schaefer.
Alicia, cross country. Were you a runner? Is that how you kind of got drafted into it, or was it you like, I always want to be a cross country coach?
So yes, I am a runner. My husband and I, we run half marathons, and
Wow.
I helped coach at a couple other schools just as assistant coach for track and cross country. And this is just an awesome opportunity that I'm so excited I can be here to help running grow in the area.
So you said this is the 6th year of the school and the program. What was it like when you first started? Did you have any kids who had ever ran anything of a distance before?
We didn't have a lot of experienced runners. Had a very small team. We were doing road races because we weren't AAA yet.
Yeah.
And we were going to meets in Oklahoma, very small towns, you know, just to be able to compete.
Right.
So
When did you kind of see them start to turn the corner and you're like, hey, I think, you know, that we could be pretty good at this?
I think when our athletes really started buying into what we needed to do to improve and to succeed, and we got some athletes that really had a lot of talent, and they've helped us, you know, just really move to the next level.
Gotcha. What about track and field? You got coaching distance runners there, or is you just strictly
do.
sticking? Okay.
Yes, so that's what I did last year in track, was coach the distance runners, and the track team. Last year, the boys also came in first place in the state for track. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, Alicia, congratulations on being the program of the week and on winning back-to-back state championships. No pressure, but you're going for a 3-peat here coming up in a couple of weeks.
we hope to go and defend our title next week. 2 weeks. November 3rd, we run at 8 a.m. At the state championships down there at Oklahoma. So
deal.
we are very excited about that.
Well, good luck to you guys. Go get it.
Thank you.
You
Thank you
bet.
so much.
Yeah.
We'll be back here next week as we have national champion coach Nolan Richardson here as our guest speaker. That is on October 25th. The meeting will be held again, as always, at Home 2 Suites here in Springdale. That is Coach Nolan Richardson, former Arkansas Razorback basketball coach who led his team to a national championship in 1994. He will be the guest speaker next week. You'll want to get to the luncheon early. The luncheon starts at 12 noon, but you'll want to get here early for that because there will be very few seats available as we hear our national champion coach Nolan Richardson as our guest speaker. Thanks for listening to today's podcast. Again, you can listen to this podcast where all podcasts can be found at places like Amazon, Spotify, and other places. This is Chip Sousa for the Hawgs Sports Network. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
The proceeding has been a production of the Hawgs Sports Network. Look for our daily podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. For more Razorbacks coverage, go to WholeHogSports.com or follow the Hawgs Sports Network reporters on social media.